Highly intelligent people lose arguments every day. They make terrible business decisions. They get dismantled in public debates by opponents who are objectively less competent. And the failure is rarely a lack of data. Most people fuse their intellect with their identity. When an opponent attacks your idea, your amygdala cannot distinguish between a physical threat and a verbal challenge. It triggers an immediate fight or flight response. The logical center of your brain shuts down. You stop processing new information. You stop listening to understand. You only listen to reload. You become a lawyer desperately defending your own ego, completely blind to the actual reality of the situation. To win consistently, you must divide the link between your identity and your ideas. You must treat your opinions as disposable tools. There is a specific cognitive protocol to achieve this. It is a 2,500 years old mental framework designed to bypass your biases. Mastering this exercise makes your arguments bulletproof. It gives you the exact blueprint to dismantle hostile opponents on live television, control high-stakes negotiation, and brutally stress test your own business decisions. Today, we are dissecting the protocol of the Dissoi Logoi. In ancient Greece, the sophists, especially the philosopher Protagoras, developed an intense cognitive training program. It was called Dissoi Logoi, which translates to double arguments. To master rhetoric and logic, a student faced a mandatory test. They had to defend their opponent's thesis with the exact same conviction, precision and passion as their own. You were not permitted to attack an opposing worldview until you could articulate it flawlessly. The purpose of this exercise was decoupling. It forces your brain to separate your identity from the concepts. Ideas become physical objects on the table. You pick them up, test their weight, examine their flaws, and put them back down. You experience zero emotional attachment. When you achieve this state, you stop being triggered by opposing viewpoints. You scan them for structural weaknesses. Modern behavioral psychology observes the exact opposite of this Greek ideal in everyday conflicts. The default human setting is the straw man. You take an opponent's arguments, strip away all its nuances, build a weak, fragile caricature, and burn it down. Doing this provides a cheap dopamine hit. It flatters your ego. It also makes you strategically blind. Burning a straw man convinces no one in the room, and it leaves you completely unaware of the actual threat the opposing side presents. The cognitive upgrade is the stillman. To execute a stillman, you must forge the absolute strongest version of your opponent's arguments. You repair their logical gaps for them. You articulate their position so clearly and rationally that your opponent nods and says, "Exactly, I couldn't have said it better myself." This is the ultimate psychological leverage. By articulating their best case, you instantly deactivate their amygdala. Their fight or flight response shuts off. You demonstrate complete intellectual dominance because you show you hold the map of reality inside your own head. They drop their defenses, and you're now an objective observer. Only then do you dismantle the arguments. If you can destroy the stillman, their absolute best version, you win the debate permanently. There is no retreat for them, except using cheap tactic, but maybe for another video. Now, theory is useless without execution. Here is how you weaponize the stillman in high-stakes environments. First, the business pre-mortem. Before deploying capital or launching a major initiative, run a crash test. Assign a specific team member the role of the assassin. Their sole directive is to use Dissoi Logoi to build a flawless, data-backed argument proving why the project will inevitably bankrupt the company. They must argue for total failure with absolute conviction. If the executive team cannot systematically dismantle this stillman argument, you cancel the launch. You save millions by killing weak ideas in the boardroom before the free market destroys them. 2. The hostile public debate. You are facing an aggressive opponent on live television or in a high-pressure public forum. The opponent uses loud rhetoric, emotional appeals, and personal attacks. An amateur gets defensive and fires back blindly. You deploy the stillman. You let them finish their rant. You pause. You summarize their core underlying anxiety with absolute precision and zero emotion. If I understand your position correctly, your primary concern is X leading to Y consequence, which fundamentally threatens Z. The opponent is forced to agree, so you have just stolen their momentum. The audience instantly registers you as the rational adult in the room. You have neutralized the emotional temperature of the debate. Once they confirm your summary, you systematically dismantle the premise of X using cold data. The important thing is to stay calm. And 3. High-stakes negotiation. High-stakes negotiation clients in high-ticket deals always present massive objections. An amateur immediately argues against the objection by pushing product features. This creates friction. The client digs in. So you use the stillman. You validate and amplify their exact fear. You articulate their risk better than they can. So your hesitation is completely justified. Integrating our system will temporarily disrupt your workflow. It requires a massive upfront capital expenditure, and the learning curve for your team will be brutal for the first 30 days. You steal their weapon. They have nothing left to attack you with. They feel profoundly understood. The aggressive dynamic instantly transforms into a collaborative one. Once the friction is gone, you calmly demonstrate how the long-term mathematical ROI completely dwarfs the 30-day pain period. You close the deal because you removed the emotional resistance. True intellectual power relies on extreme cognitive flexibility. A rigid mind shatters under pressure. A mind capable of hosting contradictory concepts without losing stability dominates its environment. And your ego is a liability. Treat your arguments as disposable tools. Test them as much as you can. The next time you face fierce opposition, in a boardroom or a living room, suppress the urge to build a straw man. Build the steel man. Then destroy it. See you next time.